I had a great conversation with Modoff. Shout out to Modoff in Pittsburgh. And we got really tactical and nerdy when it came to interviewing specifics. And so I could tell Modoff was really eating this stuff up. Like, I don't know how many interviews I've done, how many thousands of interviews. And so I feel like I've made every mistake in the book and I've somewhat fine-tuned my craft. So in this particular episode, I want to give 3 tactical tips on interviewing. Tip number 1, there are no sevens. What do you mean by that, Jamie? What does no sevens mean? Well, as you're interviewing people, you're looking for certain characteristics. So maybe even before you start the interview process, you should have a picture in your mind of who is the person that I want to bring onto the team, right? You should already know the characteristics. And I don't think we all need to have the exact same characteristics, but you should think in your mind, well, who is it that I want on the crew? And then as you're interviewing somebody, you're letting them talk, right? If you're the one doing all the talking and they're not talking, I mean, how are you really conducting an interview? So they have to talk. So really in the introduction and short story, if you will, I'm sizing up the candidate, and the candidate cannot be a 7. Like, well, they're kind of average. They're 7. So that's a pass. Let the person in. Now, either I'm going to push the person into the 8 category, right? I'm really looking for 8s and 9s. I'll never find a 10 unless Jesus comes back and I happen to interview Jesus. I mean, so I'm going to find a 9.5 or less, but I really want to bring on the 8s and 9s, right? Or I'm going to push the person to the 6 category. Like, well, you didn't quite make the cut, but it's too easy to think that, well, this person's a 7 and then they pass. So again, just fine tune the characteristics, like fine tune exactly who it is that you want, and just have the attitude of there are no 7s. This person's either going to be a 6 or they're going to be an 8. Either the person's a pass or the person's not a pass, but there are no 7s. Avoid the no-call, no-show, right? Avoid the no-call, no-show. I think too often as we're doing the final interview, so if the previous tip was preliminary interview, this one's more of a final interview. What I don't want to do is just go offering positions like crazy, right? I just offer 10 positions and only have 3 people actually show up. If that's happening, well, maybe you're just sort of assuming the sale a little too much. So what I want to do in the final interview is say, hey, listen, there's really 3 different buckets you could fit into. I'm all ears if you think there's a 4th bucket. Bucket A is, hey, I've heard enough, I've seen enough, I want in. This is the business I'm looking for. I want to be in this business. Or bucket B, I've heard enough, I've seen enough. This just isn't my cup of tea. This isn't what I'm looking for. Or bucket C, I've heard a lot from you guys. I do have other interviews lined up, so I'm really not sure if this is going to be the right business for me, but I am interested. So again, I'm all ears. Which bucket do you think that you're in? A lot of times a person's going to be in bucket C, like, well, yeah, I do have other interviews coming up, right? And listen, all the college graduates will have multiple interviews, I would hope. I would hope that we're not the only game in town. Like, throw your resume out, interview at different companies, but I want to know. I mean, maybe the person has seen enough and they are bucket A and they're really selling themselves. Well, then I can feel comfortable offering a position on the spot, assuming I believe this is the right candidate. But if the person really is bucket C, listen, I'm not offering a position on the spot. I want to schedule a follow-up. And I want to say, hey, when are your other interviews? Well, I'm going to be interviewing up until next Friday. So is it fair to say that after all your interviews are done, you'll be able to make a decision? Yeah, of course, Jamie. So then maybe I'll schedule, after you've done all the interviews, maybe on the following Monday, you and I can talk again and schedule a follow-up talk. I just don't want to assume that the person, of course they want to be in this business. I mean, why would you assume that? And again, I just totally want to avoid the no-call, no-show. I mean, I find that frustrating. It's difficult to schedule, your leaders are all going to be training other people, and then, okay, so-and-so didn't show up. I mean, that's just too frustrating. I want to be clear as day in my communication, and I'm okay with bucket C, and I want to give them that out if that's what they're looking for. And I find usually around 25% of people are bucket A or B, either, hey, I want in or I want out, but I'm clear. But I find 75% of people kind of fit that bucket C a little bit. So I want to present that and just simply schedule a follow-up. And my third tip is really a question. What are you selling exactly? Now, let's just call it fact to fact. We are selling. If you're interviewing a stud candidate, you've got a rock star, of course you're selling the candidate on, come join me in my cause. Like, I want great people on this team. You've got a LeBron James that you could potentially recruit. Of course you want that person on your team. So my question is, what exactly are you selling? I'll tell you what I'm not selling. I'm not selling the ICL model. I'm not selling the structure. I don't get all wow on, you go from being a rep to being a leader, then you start building a team and you move into assistant management. That's not the part that I want to sell. What I am selling, other than myself, let's face it, we're all selling ourselves. Your involvement, your character, I mean, the value that you add to the team, of course, we're selling ourselves. But aside from that, I'm selling the industry. Like, where's this industry going? What industry are you in? I mean, we are in the outsourced sales industry. The biggest companies on the world have accepted that they're not great at really managing and leading sales teams. So they outsource that to us. They understand that TV commercials aren't quite what they used to be. People just aren't watching commercials. So are we really going to dump millions of dollars into TV commercials? Probably not. Pay-per-click advertising? Maybe. People might be inundated with just too much stuff. So the idea of a face-to-face boutique company, they're all into this stuff. So again, biggest companies in the world outsource it to us. So it's the industry that I want to sell. With or without me, with or without you, this industry is skyrocketing. And we're not even global yet. So what's going to happen when we get into Mexico and Europe? So you can really light up about the industry. I think back to my early days with Patrick Bet-David. Obviously, I think anybody watching this is certainly tuned into his channel. He's done a phenomenal job with Valuetainment, right? But I think to the young Patrick Bet-David, and so obviously I was very much attracted to Pat, and obviously he liked me as well too. Like, we had a lot of respect for each other. I mean, I knew he was going to be a great businessman. He knew I was going to be a great businessman. And so the industry, Pat did a great job on really selling the life insurance industry and how, listen, 401ks and putting money in the market, like I think annuities and life insurance. And Jamie, you watch the richest sports, remember comments like this, the richest sports, right? Like, you watch golf and you watch, tennis, the people that are watching this stuff, I mean, these are the wealthiest people watching those sports. And look at the commercials. It's not the Doritos commercials during those events. It's going to be the life insurance companies that are advertising during those events. There's a reason for that. That's where the money's going. So again, it was the industry, aside from himself, that PBD was great at selling. So again, what are you selling? You and the industry would be my best tip for you. So that's what I have for you. I hope you guys enjoy, and I'll talk to you soon.